you can start to see the power lines, the high voltage power lines coming into the Grand Coulee. And today's kind of a rest day for me in a way. I'm only trying to do 25 miles. I've adjusted my schedule a little bit so that hopefully I'm rested up for the Cascades and the big hump to get over. That's the theory, at least. We can start to see the lake that the dam created, Lake Roosevelt, and how dry and arid, desert-like this landscape is. This was one of those classic ecstasy to agony moments where I was only 2 miles away from the campground and I was ready to rest up so that I could go on a tour of the Coulee Dam and get some good food, and I was very excited. Then I heard a hissing sound and saw my front tire deflated, and with it my plans of an easy rest day and a tour of the Grand Coulee Dam. It was hotter than heck, and I struggled to get my last tube into the tire, the same issue that the mechanics in Helena had struggled with. But I used some soap on the rim as lubricant, and it worked out, and my crappy little pump did its job, and I was able to get back on the road hot and sweaty and basically out of water. It was definitely one of the low points of the trip, and I was wondering if I would be able to complete it. But I persevered, and good and very interesting things happened to me this afternoon, even though I never got a chance to tour the dam. That's plain. The best thing that happened to me was getting to meet a really wonderful family that was camping nearby. They essentially adopted me for the evening and fed me very, very well, which was fortunate because I had planned to go into town and reprovision and was quite low on food. Was that since this is water source, it's illegal to go to the bathroom in the lake, so therefore they have floating bathrooms out here for those necessities. The family was extraordinary in many ways, but one unique characteristic was that several members were deaf, and so I got a brief window into the deaf community and what the gifts and challenges are for this different way of experiencing life. Would you like to say your names?
I'm Milani. I'm Danica.
And we've been talking about a lot of different things, but one of the things is that they're both children of deaf parents. And so I wanted to talk to them a little bit about what that experience is like. Many people have seen the movie now, and I think it sensitized us to certain aspects of it, but I'd like to hear from them what their experience is.
It's an experience of many, for sure. I think one of the greatest differences that I have when I went through grade school, I would speak and I would say all this stuff at school, and I get home and it's just a completely different world. Like you're not using your verbalness as much, and you're using your hands, and there's different slang and sign language versus in spoken English, and it's definitely two different worlds for sure.
Now I think you said that that your first language was American Sign Language.
Yeah. There were a lot of advantages. There's one time when I was at my grandparents' house, and I was riding this little Care Bear, it was like a little car, four-wheeler, and my mom was out playing, and I had tipped it over, and I didn't cry or anything, but then I saw her come over and I started fake crying so that I'd get attention because she didn't hear me when I first fell. So, growing up, I was very devious with what I could get away with, like playing with my DS under my blankets at night because she couldn't hear it, but she could definitely see the light, so she'd come in and be like, hey. And so yeah, things like that. It was fun.
Yeah, like for me, I'm so used to being quiet at home that like going to school and just being out in public where there's a lot of noise, it just feels really different, and like it's not what I'm used to, and it's kind of out of my comfort zone in a way. It's just weird.
See, I have that differently for some reason. My biological father, she's a single only child. I have 2 brothers, so it's definitely 2 different worlds because of that. But my biological father, when he listens to music, he obviously can't hear it, so he would turn it up really loud to feel the vibration and the bass, and so I learned to listen to music really loud. And so I would do that at home and in my car. Now
most parents say turn it down, but he's
but
saying
our parents,
turn it up.
yeah. And you would think that a deaf home is quiet, but it's actually pretty loud because they can't hear themselves, and so when there's a group of deaf people, it's very loud. They're laughing and they're using their voice, and it's very energetic for sure, and it's fun.
One of the things we touched on really briefly earlier on was that there's a lot of subtle ways in which deaf people are discriminated against, that people aren't even aware of. Would you like to talk about some of those ways?
Yeah.
With jobs especially, it's harder for deaf people to find jobs that they fit in and can actually like work in smoothly, because most jobs are like accommodated to hearing people in a lot of different ways. And so for deaf people trying to find jobs, it's really difficult for them to find first like the employer and just coworkers who are accepting and like trying to learn ASL to talk to them, but also trying to find something they can do on their own and not have to worry about having other people help them with as much.
Yeah, for sure. There was an experience I had with my dad at the gas station one time. He was getting out of his car, and the guy behind him wanted him to pull up to the next pump so that he could pull in behind him. And he was getting mad and yelling at my dad, but my dad couldn't hear him, and I was like maybe 8 years old. And it's just little things like that people don't take into consideration, that the like stereotype that people are ignorant and they're gonna ignore you, it kind of takes over the fact that there are deaf people out there. And so when you think that people are ignoring you, they're not. They're deaf. And so a lot of times when we go to the grocery store with our parents, we have to be like, hey, they're not ignoring you, they're deaf. Can you repeat what you said so we can interpret that?
You're caught in the middle a lot, kind of like in the movie, right? I mean, did you feel like the movie captured pretty much the experience? I mean, not exactly your experience, but for the most part?
Yeah, it kind of. I think the movie really captured the parents being sort of ignorant to the kids and using them to their advantage. But for us, I think we've loved doing that. We've loved interpreting for our parents. It's what we do. It's become part of who we are. And our parents have done everything for us. I mean, we get to live 2 different worlds, but combined at the same time. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's unique for sure.
Great.
If you need any more proof that these are some great kids, take a look at the note that Danica left taped to my picnic table when I awoke the next morning. This is a keeper. Thank you to the whole family.